I guess we all have that one area with a creepy building and terrifying stories attached to it. Where I live, it was a building where apparently shadows are not allowed. Now, this confused us all because everything has a shadow, and it's quite mind boggling to think of a place where they're just not allowed. I've also heard that this building used to be a hot spot for witches and Satanists who did weird rituals in there. I've been invited by a couple of friends of mine to be brave and venture into this strange building. Something for YouTube, I guess. But there have been stories of other people who have been in there and came out different. And when I say different, I mean possessed, strange, and just never the same again. But to be honest, that's what made this abandoned building even more attractive to venture into. We would all talk about it at school, and we imagined getting high and letting the drugs do its work. We even started to speak of making this abandoned building our new hangout space. Eventually, it was me and two other of my fellow friends, which all three of us had decided to go into this ghastly, abandoned building. When the day came and we prepared ourselves mentally, it was after school that all three of us met up. The day was quiet and not many people were driving or walking about. It was one of those quiet days where it made it even more creepier. Me, Thomas, and Fred stood outside this building and just started taking in its atmospheric effects on our brains. We could clearly see from standing outside, looking in from the open front door, that there were injections and finished alcohol bottles all over the place. There was a street lamp just outside this building causing a shadow on us three. As we stepped in, there was a sensational, strange, tingly feeling going through our entire bodies, and our heads felt really light. We had torchlights with us, and when all three of us looked outside, we could clearly see that all three of our shadows were outside the front door steps under the light post, and we looked at each other and started laughing in amazement. We swung the torchlights at each other, and no shadow were formed at all. This experience completely dazzled all of us. None of us literally had a shadow. There was, though, a golden shiny vein across our arms, but all three of us swore we never had this golden vein inside of us before. We decided to explore this building, and all three of us were muttering to each other and joking about. "This is creepy as fuck," Fred spoke. "Yeah, I know, imagine sleeping here," Thomas replied. "I bet some have," Fred spoke again. "It's weird. We don't have any more shadows being in this building," I added to the conversation. As time went by, Fred started complaining that something was following him and that he can see something moving on the side of his eyes. Me and Thomas joked around with him about it, and Fred was serious about what he was seeing. There was a shadow-like figure was following him. Me and Thomas then reassured Fred that there was no shadows in this building, and we swung our torchlights at Fred and other objects, which showed no shadows forming at all. Then, something moved so quickly that it made three of us blink. Fred fell to the floor, and me and Thomas quickly aided Fred on the floor, and while at the same time I had noticed something strange about Fred's arm. His golden vein was chopped in half, and then suddenly it had disappeared, and then black-like veins started forming around his body. Fred started shaking, and as me and Thomas tried our best carrying Fred back downstairs, with all of our strengths near the front open door, I've noticed Fred's shadow that was once outside the front door of this building, as it wasn't allowed to come in, had now disappeared, but mine and Thomas's shadow was still under the street lamp. Then Fred started speaking, but it wasn't his voice. "I've been without a body for a long time, and now I've found one," Fred spoke. Me and Thomas tried speaking to Fred in this strange state, but being still inside but near the front door. Fred spoke, explaining to us, or the thing inside him started to explain more about this building. It's not the shadows that aren't allowed inside, but birth shadows with masters or bodies are not allowed inside. Me and Thomas looked at each other, and Fred had a new shadow as we can see it forming and trying its best to adapt to Fred's body. These shadows that live inside this building are like lost samurais without a master or purpose. The golden veins in our arms were the connection with our birth shadows, which Fred's golden vein have been cut with his birth shadow by this new invading shadow. It has been waiting in this building for a very long time. The shadow he was born with has been cut off completely. Our shadows do more than just follow us. They are the first protection against demonic possession and many more. Me and Thomas knew that we were both also sitting ducks that could end up like Fred. We both quickly dragged Fred out of this building, and mine and Thomas's shadow are now connected with us. Except Fred, and we took him to the hospital. Fred is still being treated, and we hope he'll get better. I wish we never went in there.